Howdy, guys, and welcome to Celebrity Big Brother Season 3 and a recap of the overnight feeds from night number 15. And welcome to Cliff Notes from outside the Big Brother house. Night number 15. Who would have thought that this was a night we have a little bit of news to talk about, a little bit of surprises. So let's get right into it. The two big things to talk about, we've got a veto winner and we have lost a house guest. Yes, indeed. Let's talk about the house guest first. Apparently, Chris Kattan is out of the house. I don't have any details whatsoever just yet. Based on the way he was talking previously, he wanted to go home instead of Murray from last week. Well, it sounds like maybe he self-evicted, walked himself out of the house. I don't know. Maybe he realized that if Carson potentially is gone this week, there won't be any more cake to be had. I don't know. Chris Kattan, I just don't know that he was quite prepared for what was going on in the house, for the way that house plays out. He didn't really ever seem to have a comfort factor. And so we'll get more details shortly. But Chris Kattan has left, which means we're now down to 11, 10, 9, 8 house guests. 8 house guests is all we've got left. And it's going so fast. So Chris is gone. We're down to 8. The other big news from yesterday, sometime the feeds were down most of yesterday, but we do have a veto winner, and the veto winner is Shanna. Yes, she is one, and it's going to force her to draw some battle lines, to make some decisions about which side does she work with. She's kind of been floating in the middle. I don't think that's going to be the case anymore. Now, remember, Misha is on the block. We've got Carson and Cynthia as the nominees. So does Shanna use the veto? If she does, who goes up in place of Carson or Cynthia? We don't really know where Shanna would potentially, who she would protect, and who would go up. She's been tight with Chris Kirkpatrick, but certainly if one of them comes off, there's a possibility that Chris could go up instead. So Shanna's going to have some decisions to make probably today, I'm expecting. It's Thursday, and then probably tomorrow night we'll have the eviction episode just like we did last week. So Shanna has won the veto. We're getting little changes in power, which is always a little bit more exciting for us. So those are the two big things that happened. I say overnight. Actually, it was more yesterday, but the two things that happened. Let's talk about some of the other conversations that did take place. We had the feeds come back yesterday afternoon, and we had Chris Kirkpatrick, Shanna, Carson in the clock bedroom talking, and they're talking about Shanna using the veto. Likely on Carson. Seems like that's the way they're leaning. They view Carson as maybe the more threatened at this point in time. So we've got that. Now, Chris Kirkpatrick apparently heard Misha and Todd talking and saying that they were considering or thinking about putting up Todd as a replacement if Shanna uses a veto, which is a little surprising. To put up Todd, who seems to be aligned with that side a little bit more than others. And putting up Todd instead of Chris Kirkpatrick, a little bit of a surprise, but Chris says he heard that, them talking about, saying that they were going to do that. So we'll find out. Now, the idea and what they're talking about right now, Chris Kirkpatrick, Shanna, and Carson, is that if that happens, if Todd goes up on the block, I suspect that Misha expects that Chris Kirkpatrick will vote with her and Toddrick and send Todd out the door. But the idea is that instead they would send out Todd to protect, so that now we've got Carson and Cynthia both protected. Now, here's the thing. We only have 8 people left in the house. We've got an HOH. We've got 2 nominees. That means we only have 5 votes that are taking place. It goes so fast. 5 votes, which means 3 votes determines who goes home. So if you get Shanna voting, Chris Kirkpatrick voting, and Cynthia or Carson, whoever comes off the block, they can decide who goes home. So dangerous games if Toddrick and Misha do go through and put Todd on the block if Shanna uses a veto. And we'll talk about that more in just a little bit. Now, if Todd goes home, and again, Todd's tight with Misha, but if Todd goes home, Carson and Shanna and Cynthia, they think that, and Chris Kirkpatrick, they think it would then turn into a situation where Misha can't play an HOH next week, where it would be everyone left in the house going against Toddrick. And as long as Toddrick didn't win that HOH, then this side controls everything. They could go after Toddrick or Misha, depending on who gets HOH, and control the house. Maybe. I mean, it's a decent idea, but it all comes down to whether Todd goes up on the block or not is a big factor. And I'm just still not convinced that's going to happen, but we shall see. Later, we've got Cynthia and Carson and Lamar in the bathroom talking. And as much as those plans sound fantastic that we just talked about, you got to trust people when you do something like that. And we got Cynthia, Carson, and Lamar all talking, saying they just don't think that Chris Kirkpatrick is the most trustworthy person in his house right now. They don't know that they can trust him. They think that Chris is giving information and still trying to buddy up to Misha a little bit as a way to protect himself. And that could be the case. It could be that Chris Kirkpatrick and Misha's relationship is enough that she's helping keep Chris off the block, keep Todrick from considering too strongly putting Chris Kirkpatrick up. So maybe that's where they're looking at Todd because of that. So they're not trusting Chris Kirkpatrick. They're willing to work with him. You're always willing to work with people when you desperately need their vote, right? Doesn't mean that they necessarily trust them. So we got that. Now we got a big breaking thing. We have Lamar and Todd Bridges talking game, talking strategy. Who would have thought that would have ever happened? Bring it on, guys. I'm glad to see it. And they're not in sync necessarily with each other. Lamar wants to keep Carson. He's at least talking about it. He says, look, Misha's the biggest threat in this house. If we keep Carson, that gives someone to go after Misha and get her out the door. Todd doesn't see it that way. Todd's a little tighter with Misha. Todd's thinking that he really prefers if it was he and Lamar, Misha, and Todrick. I mean, if take that back. Todd's thinking if he and Lamar and Shanna and Cynthia teamed up together, Carson could go out the door, but these four still could team up against Chris Kirkpatrick, Misha, and Todrick. So it'd be 4 against 3. Todd feels like they still have the power. Let's get out Carson this week. Then we should have a chance to get out Misha or Todrick next week, and all is good in the world. Well, that's true, but when it's 4 versus 3, so much is depending on who wins that HOH. You get 2 of those 4 people on the block, and suddenly you don't have power. Even though you may have more people in the house, it doesn't mean that you have power. Todd's is a little more dangerous if he does that. But Lamar seems like he's sold on joining up with Carson and Cynthia and going after Misha. We'll find out. It's going to be a fun week. We've got Todrick telling Misha that he wants a final 4 of the 2 of them, Todd and Lamar. I said it a couple of days ago. Todd and Lamar, more than anyone else, is becoming the swing vote in this house. Who would have thunk it, right? So Todrick's talking about those 4 as a final 4. Notice that Chris Kirkpatrick is not listed as one of Todrick's final 4. Now, would you expect it? Now, these guys aren't even talking with each other, so it's not to be expected, but he does feel like he's got his final 4 set up. But here's the thing. Misha is a little tighter with Chris than Todrick is. She's still pushing to keep Chris Kirkpatrick over Carson. That would be her preferred scenario. And Misha is also talking about wanting to strike a 1-week safety deal with Chris Kirkpatrick for next week. She can't compete for HOH. She knows that a lot of the people on the other side view her as a big threat. She talked about the fact that winning 2 HOHs like she did out of the first 3s, putting a gigantic target on her back, but she didn't feel like she had the choice. I think that was a good move. Yeah, you can't be throwing HOHs at this point in time. She had to win if she could win. The target was going to be on her back no matter what. So, but it is what it is. She knows that she's seen as a threat, that she's vulnerable this next week where she can't compete. So she's willing to maybe keep Chris Kirkpatrick safe this week, put someone like Todd up in exchange for Chris promising safety to her the following week. Would Chris follow through? All right, we've got Misha and Chris Kirkpatrick talking a little bit. Misha is telling Chris Kirkpatrick, saying, look, you're the swing vote this week. Yeah, I know that you're talking to everyone a little bit and everything, but you're actually the swing vote. Chris and Lamar Odom, 2 of our swing votes in this house. But she's saying, I need to know if Shanna uses the veto and pulls down Cynthia, I need to know, Chris, that you're gonna vote out Carson, that you're not gonna turn around and flip and try to send out Todd. I need to know. I need you to swear that you would go ahead and vote out Carson if we do something like that. I never heard Chris Kirkpatrick say, I swear I'll do it, or anything like that. He kind of hem-hawed around everything, and I don't think he ever actually gave her an answer. I'm not sure if she realizes he never gave her an answer, but She wants him to commit to going ahead voting at Carson anyway. Chris may have some tough decisions to make this week. Misha is mentioning that to Chris Kirkpatrick that he and Toddrick aren't even talking to each other. Chris is fine with Misha. Toddrick's fine with Misha. Pretty good spot for Misha, right? But neither one of them will talk to each other. Neither one trust each other. Toddrick's already said he's going to do everything in his power to get Chris Kirkpatrick out as soon as Carson's out the door. So we know where those two are at. Chris is questioning, saying, look, I know I'm kind of part of this athlete alliance, but so is Toddrick. And if the two of us aren't even talking, if we're kind of talking about going after each other, is that really an alliance? It's an alliance of necessity, of need at this point in time, rather than a preference of who you want to go to the end with. So it's on life support. That's certainly for sure. We've got Chris Kirkpatrick. Then he's talking to a lot of people this week. Chris is talking to Cynthia and Shanna and Carson. He's saying, look, guys, I hope y'all understand. I'm blowing up my game for y'all. I'm putting a lot on the line. He's saying as well, he's saying, I know if Shanna uses her veto, there's a possibility that I could go up as a replacement instead. And I'm willing to take that chance. It's important enough that we protect the two of y'all, so we protect our numbers. I'm willing to take the short-term chance in order for that to happen and for us to potentially be able to then turn around and vote out Todd. Now, I like the idea of that, and I understand sometimes you have to take the short-term risk, and there is such value in numbers. And if Chris has decided that he's going to throw in with Cynthia and Carson, then perhaps this is the best way to do it. I'm just curious if he truly is going to do it. We're going to find out a whole lot more today once we find out what happens with this veto, and then certainly tomorrow night's going to be huge as well. We've got, all right, a quick little thing, not really game related, but we've got Lamar talking to Carson saying, man, I could have breezed through Big Brother at the age of 29, but not necessarily now that I'm 42. Well, hey, try it when you're 53. There's no breezing through Big Brother. But I got to say, if I played Big Brother in my 20s instead of in my 50s, I don't think I would have done as well. I had a little wisdom and experience helped me out a little bit. But Lamar's thinking a few years younger may have helped him a little bit as well. Because he would have been the comp beast, and me not so much. All right, finally we've got Toddrick warning Todd, saying, "Look, Todd, if you go on the block this week, you're in danger. Don't be believing this stuff that you're just up there as a pawn and it's still going to be Carson. You are in danger if you go on the block." Toddrick knows what's going on. He knows there's a lot of people promising both ways. Toddrick's not convinced that Chris Kirkpatrick would follow through on any promises he made or anything else. So he understands that it would be easy to flip on Todd or whoever went up next to Carson. And so he's trying to give Todd the heads up. And again, he's trying to make sure Todd stays in with himself and Misha, as opposed to thinking that there's any trust from the other side or anything else. Toddrick understands where it's at. There's so many people vulnerable in this game right now, trying to protect their own little fiefdom and all of that. And Toddrick is certainly one of them. So there you go, guys. Lights out around 1:30 or so. Big Brother time. Again, Chris Kattan's gone. Shanna has a veto. Lamar and Chris Kirkpatrick could be swing votes. It's going to be a fun 36 to 48 hours as we wait and see how this all plays out. I'll be back tomorrow. We'll talk a little bit more about whether or not the veto was used, and then we'll start talking about scenarios after that. Guys, y'all have a fantastic Thursday. I will see y'all tomorrow. Until then, SKD 143. Cheers, my friends. Bye.